I think we are approaching a good number of people. My name is Fernando Perez-Cruz. I am the Chief Data Scientist of the Swiss Data Science Center, and I will be conducting the presentation together with some of my colleagues. So I will want to introduce you first our Executive Director, Olivier Verschuher, who say the introduction to this presentation. Olivier, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Fernando, and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this Project Information Day of the Swiss Data Science Center. As many of you know already, this is an annual event that has been held for several years now, and it provides an opportunity for an exchange of information on the research projects that have been selected in a previous call, and an introduction to the new call for collaborative research project in data science. So without further ado, again, welcome, and thank you, Fernando, Guillaume, and the rest of the team for hosting this event. Back to you, Fernando.
Thank you, Olivier. So for the event today, first we will have an introduction of what SDSC is, as some of you might know, but not everybody might know. And then we will present the outcome of the last year call, and then present how the new call is going to be carried out. So Guillaume Obozinski is the Deputy Chief Data Scientist, and he will do the first part of the presentation, and then some of us will continue after this presentation. Guillaume?
Thank you, Fernando. So I'm going to share my screen. And so you should see my slides. Is that right?
Yes, we do.
Okay, great. So I'll start by saying a few words about the Swiss Data Science Center. So the Swiss Data Science Center was created in 2017 as an ETH Domain initiative to accelerate the adoption of data science, both in academic research and in the industry. Today, the SDSC has a little more than 75 employees, with offices at EPFL, ETH Zurich, and recently a small office at PSI. There are three main teams at SDSC of roughly equal sizes. So the academic team that is working primarily on the collaborative project that we will present in this webinar, with teams of scientists from ETH Zurich, EPFL, and the 4 federal research institutes. The industry team that works with industrial partners, primarily to help them define their data science strategy and to train data scientists that will form their data science team if they decide to build one. And then the Renku team, which is our engineering team, who is developing a tool for workflow management in collaborative data science projects, and I'll say a few words about it. So let me talk first about academic research collaborations. We're really talking about the collaborative projects of the SDSC, which are the object of this call. So the SDSC has a double mission here. The first is to organize the reviewing process of this call, that is review the projects that are submitted and appeal to external reviewers to do this process. And then once projects are selected and funded, the SDSC is then taking part in the project as a collaborator to the applicant. So this is the 6th call for projects. So in the 5 previous calls, we have carefully selected 73 2-year projects from a total of more than 300 submissions. And so out of these 73 projects, there are 30 that are ongoing, 22 that are now over, and there are 21 that are about to start. So these projects have led today to a little more than 50 publications in journals from different domains, and a little more than 25 papers in computer science conferences that concern publication of more technical methods and work. On the left, at the bottom, you can see a distribution of the topics of our collaborative research project. And you can see that the two main ones are environmental science that cover climate, atmospheric science, work on biodiversity, and health and biology, which is obviously quite important as well. In the table in the middle, you can see the distribution of the number of PIs from different institutions whose projects were undertaken, and the number of the distribution as well of their partners. On the right, this is to illustrate how closely involved we hope to be in the project. So this is, here we see in the picture one of our data scientists who is working on the Smart Air project with Professor Thomas Rösgen at ETH Zurich. This is a project on a wind tunnel where we'd like to design adaptive measurement, to design an algorithm that performs adaptive measurement to estimate as efficiently as possible the airflow around an object. And here our data scientist is using the measurement probe to get a sense for how this is working. And since this was done during COVID times, he's wearing a mask. A few words about industrial collaboration. Again, this is to work with individual companies to help them define their data science strategy and what are reasonable expectations from data science, machine learning, or AI. We help them develop technical solutions for specific challenges, so specific problems that also help them understand what to expect. And then we help them to hire jointly with SDSC data scientists that are coached and trained throughout the process. You see two illustrations. At the left, this illustrates a collaboration with Lonza, where we used multiplicative LSTM to train models that predict for proteins directly from the sequence. What are some, to predict, yes, from the sequence, what are some properties of these proteins, in particular properties that are relevant for manufacturing? And at the bottom right, this is an illustration of a project with Bühler, in which we help design a data-driven optimization method for cooling in the context of die casting. A few words about Renku. So if I have to define Renku in a single sentence, I would say that Renku is a data science workflow versioning system. If you're familiar with Git, which helps you keep a version of your code, the idea of Renku, which is actually built on top of Git, which uses Git, is to have a versioning system, but for the entire data analytics pipeline. So in addition to having your code under version control, your data is versioned as well, intermediate results are versioned as well. And the platform basically keeps track of the dependencies between data, algorithms, and results in the form of this graph that specify which data should be used as input of each algorithm and what are the outputs. The idea being that when data is updated or when code is modified, it is very easy to reproduce specific results in the graph by running only the parts of the computation that are needed and without having to rerun the entire pipeline. And among the other advantages, this graph is also very helpful to be able to propagate metadata in the graph, which makes it easier to abide by the FAIR principle. So this is it for what I wanted to say. I'm gonna let Fernando take over here. Fernando, please. And we can't hear you.
Thank you, Guillaume. I now going to move to present the previous call for project. Can you move to the next slide, please? So in the last year call, we've from the last 3 years, we've been increasing the number of proposals from 42 all the way to 75 last year, and the number of full proposals have increased from 28 to 53. We've been plateauing in the last year, which is a good sign that we are well known within the 2 universities and the 4 research institute. There is also a lot of people interact with us before the call, and we will be very happy to answer any of your questions, either in the pre-proposal phase that we will present at the end, and also we engage with everybody in the final phase, because for the idea of this call, which is the collaboration with SDSC, is we are not only giving you funding, but we're giving you funding as a form of a person that is going to be working with you hand in hand in order to realize your scientific goals. In the last call, among the 53 proposals, I think it is important, is there is 9 people that were working with us before that reapplied and that wanted to keep on working with it. There were also 12 resubmissions, not only from the previous call, I mean, not only for the 2 previous calls, but even from the past. And we have an increased engagement with the Research Institute that were all the way to 19 proposals last year. We were, and this is something that we will see later, we had a track that was co-funded by PHRT that had 6 submissions, and another track with the largest scale infrastructure that has 6 submissions. Those 2 tracks are also available this year. Can you move to the next slide? And now, just to show the breadth of the type of projects that we have, I had a couple of, I have 5 projects here to represent the work that we've been doing. So we have this biodetect project that is being run by BSL and EAWAC, in which one of the part of the project is having cameras in the Amazonia in order to trap hummingbirds. And the goal of that thing is not only to detect when there is a hummingbird in the picture, but also to detect one of the over 200 species of hummingbird. In the project to the right is a project in which we're using is a measuring device in order to look inside the body for a few millimeters. The skin is excited using laser, and then the signal, the response of the body is using acoustic sensor, and that's the name of the optoacoustic project, and allows you to see the veins that are right under the skin. The objective here is to get a better reconstruction only when we have partial view of that veins. In the next project, it's an SPEC project, is trying to understand how the long-term weather prediction can be done from the stratospheric events, and especially the split of the vortex in the North Pole during the winter months, that whenever that split happened, roughly a month afterwards, we have a very cold event, either in North America or in Europe, and then trying to understand why this is happening, and if we can predict weather on a longer time scale than a few weeks up to a month or of 2 months. In the 2 projects that we have on the lower side, we have a project with the transmission electron microscopy. The idea here is to be able to use machine learning in an electron tomography, and the goal here is that you will have samples from solids, including volcanic rocks, in which we want to understand what is the composition of that from the tomography, and we are developing machine learning algorithm in order to do so. And the last project that we have in this slide is talking about the narrative in law and politics, and the idea here is to use machine learning and causality to understand the text in political speech and judicial speech, how the way that the judges or the politics write and express themselves in order to find causality and understand the way that they communicate with the public. This is just to give you a little bit of the breadth of the projects that we have. I think Guillaume mentioned at the beginning, we have a strong focus in environmental and medical, but also we are doing things in politics, We are doing things in physics. We are doing also engineering projects too. So with this, I finished my presentation. Now our lead data scientists are going to present the projects that were just selected that we will be starting this summer. So I will start with Michele Volpi will present 2 examples of the projects that we will start in a couple of months.
Yes, thanks Fernando for the introduction, and good afternoon everyone. So I just want to give you like a quick overview of two projects that are going to be been accepted last year. That both of them relate at large to environmental sciences, and the first one is going to be is led by Dr. Fabian Walter from the WSL Institute, and it's titled Data Science and Mass Movement Seismology Towards the Next Generation of Debris Flow Warning. So as probably some of you know, debris flows are a mixture of rock sediment and water that can actually get up to very impressive speeds and have like an immense destructive power. The problem with active monitoring of that is that usually the mobilization zone of such phenomena is in remote areas, high up the mountains, in quite inaccessible areas. So the idea of this project is actually to deploy seismometers around the area and use the signals measured by those seismometers to characterize not only the mobilization of those debris flows, but also characterize what are the processes leading to an accumulation of material, which in turn will lead to a mobilization of debris flow. So the idea is to build machine learning methods that, based on classification and time series segmentation, that actually allow to detect different mass movement typologies, and to be accurate enough to provide early warning systems with significant lead time with respect to current techniques. And in principle, the knowledge that will be implemented in those models and the knowledge that will be extracted by those models will probably be leading us to be able to deploy such systems also to other catchment areas with different geologies, and hopefully provide solutions to monitoring also to other locations. The second project I want to mention is a project that's going to be led by Professor Achim Walter and Dr. Lukas Roth here at ETH Zurich, and is titled Extracting Dynamic Idiotypes from Seasonal Image Time Series of Wheat Taken in the Field. So for this project, as you know, wheat is one of the most important sources of food in the planet, but it's yet unclear how we should deal with climate change and adapt cultivations to face that. So the goal of this project is actually to use dense image time series as acquired by the field phenotyping platform from ETH Zurich that basically monitors with a very regular time interval around 350 genotypes of wheat, and basically replace the existing standards basically to analyze the relation between these genotypes, their phenotypes, and their dynamic the growth rates. To replace this very laborious and sequential pipeline with an end-to-end system. And basically the idea is to actually implement convolutional and recurrent generative machine learning neural networks, whatever you call it, and basically to see whether we can actually approximate specific plant traits, so for instance, yield, protein content, earliness of blooming and all of that, and hopefully being able to relate the learning of those models to some traits that relates to growth dynamics, which in turn will probably give information to experts and breeders to come up with maybe new types of wheat that are maybe more robust to climate change. And that would be it from my side.
Thank you, Michele, for your presentation. The next set of projects are going to be presented by Katia Krimova, which is also a lead data scientist here at ETH Zurich. Katia, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Fernando. Hello, everyone. And so the first project on the slide is predicting subclonal drug response from single-cell sequencing for precision oncology, which is led by Dr. Jack Kuipers. And this project is co-funded with PCRT. And so the project is addressing a fundamental problem of creating a targeted therapy in precision oncology. And so the cancerous tumors consist of heterogeneous cells, and some of subpopulation of the cells are less responsive to treatment than, and so for the treatment which targets only one type of the cells. And the aim of this project is to identify the tuber composition and uncover the mutation history based on single-cell DNA and mRNA data. So additionally, it is planned to build and validate drug prediction models at the level of tumor subclones, given the drug response data. And this way, it would be possible to design targeted treatments for the full composite tumor. And the second project is machine learning for component fatigue prediction in hydropower generation. And it is led by Dr. Elena Vagnoni from PFL. The main goal of this project is to model and minimize damage due to fatigue in the several parts of hydraulic machine, namely in hydropower Francis turbines, which you can see on the pictures. And this project is built around the data of runs of several reduced scale copies of hydropower plant machines, which are at the PFL. And these runs are in different regimes, in steady state and transient regimes of the control parameters. And one of the challenging parts is of this project is to formulate and to solve a control problem, aiming to minimize damage during transient regimes, since the constraints on the control parameters are changing in time. And so the methods which would be developed could potentially help to improve the efficiency and operational safety of the hydraulic system, and also to explore the unknown operation regimes and decrease the cost of the maintenance. Thank you.
Thank you, Katia. So the last presenter will be Benjamin Behar, which is the group leader at our team at PSI, and he also will present two of the projects in the fifth COP. Benjamin, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Fernando. Hello, everybody. So just continuing with the examples. So the first project that I'm presenting is with Professor Luc Tevena, who's the head of the group for fiber optics at EPFL. And the idea in this project is to use precisely fiber optics as a mechanism for sensing the environment. That's why the title is Data Analytics for Distributed Optical Fiber Sensing. Essentially, the idea is to deploy these optical fibers through an area that you would like to monitor. And by observing the properties of light as it propagates through the fibers, you can sense or pinpoint or detect changes in the environment. And this is the principle that is illustrated in this figure. So basically, we probe these fibers with a pulse of light. And along the length of these fibers, there are a number of scatterers that are randomly distributed along its length. And in principle, there is no direction that is preferred for the scattering of light. So when some event is happening, let's say an avalanche or maybe a landslide or maybe an increase in the temperature or events like that that would affect the physical properties of the fiber, then the refractive index of the fiber would change accordingly. And we should be able to pinpoint to the places where these changes are happening. The process of probing these fibers is, as I said, you inject the pulse and then you observe the intensity of light that is being back scattered. And this can be seen as a fingerprint that characterizes the fiber. And we would like to detect anomalies along the length, of this fingerprint that is being obtained. The current approaches require probing with multiple frequencies, and it's a difficult iterative process that involves also the phase retrieval problem, because as you can imagine, it's lost in the sensing model. And we would like to use machine learning to precisely learn this fingerprint, this representation, such that whenever there is one of these anomalies or anomalous events, we would be able to directly pinpoint to the right location. The second project that I'm describing is with Dr. Elizabeth Muller at PSI, who's the head of the group for electron microscopy and diffusion. So here, the goal of this project is to increase the resolution of this electron microscope that use a particular type of detectors. The project is called Increased Spatial Resolution in Electron Detectors through Machine Learning. And the idea here is that we are using these hybrid pixel detectors, which offer very high sampling rates, so we can do very fast acquisitions. And also they are good because they allow sensing of a high dynamic range, so of energies from very low to very high energies. The problem is that when an electron hits the detector, It follows a random track, and this you have an illustration in these figures. On the bottom, you have a view where you would see the depth and also the XY plane of the detector. So these tracks, as you can see, they're pretty much random, and this effect is more pronounced at low energy, so at the lowest SNR regime. Also, the deposition of energy as the electron hits the detector follows some diffusion process that is depending on the depth, and typically most of the energy is deposited towards the end of this track. On the right, on the bottom right, you have an example of what would be one of the images that we would be looking at. So, and you have marked with a cross the hitting point of the electron, and you see the intensity of the energy that is being captured by the detector. So in this project, again, we can think of it as a problem of super resolution. We would like to determine what is the entry point of the electrons with a resolution that goes beyond what is dictated by the pixel size of these detectors. And for that purpose, we would like to incorporate the knowledge about this diffusion energy deposition process together with machine learning methods that we can train for that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Benjamin. Also, we have asked all our PIs to record a 2 to 2.5 minutes video presenting the projects. All these videos are going to be shown in our webpage, but we want to show you one of them by Paolo Benetti, just so you get an idea in their own words what the project is about. So can you share the screen, Guillaume, or do you want me to do it?
Sure, I'll do it. I hope the sound will work, but
you need to share the sound too when you share the screen.
Yes. So if you just give me 1 second.
Okay, and after this video, I mean, we asked for all the videos, but we're not going to show all of them because then the event will take too long. And then we will present the call, and then we will be open to your questions.
All right, so I'm sharing again. Share screen and share sound. It's asking me a password. Interesting. Well, I assume the password isn't going to be displayed.
Okay.
Should be good.
Yes, we're good. We can see the screen. Can you pull it full screen?
Yes. All right.
My name is Paolo Benetti, and I am a research scientist at EPFL. Together with Professor Andrea Rinaldo from EPFL, Professor Jim Kirchner from ETH Zurich, and the Swiss Data Science Center, we will develop a project to quantify the response times of river systems. So the problem here is that rivers respond very quickly to storm events, but in fact, they transport large amounts of water and solutes that are often months or even years old. So these two very different time scales coexist in river systems. The traditional way to quantify these responses that are also significantly non-stationary is by using hydrologic and transport models based on various types of response functions. These models require some a priori assumptions about how the system is expected to behave, and this certainly has an effect on the estimates, which is also difficult to quantify. So we want to develop a data-driven solution and learn the shape of the transfer function from data rather than assuming it a priori. And the Swiss Data Science Center will help us develop non-parametric and semi-parametric approaches to estimate the time-varying response time distributions for both water flow and water quality in rivers. To do so, we'll use about 40 years of meteorologic and river flow data over about 150 Swiss watersheds. And we will also use high-resolution water quality data, particularly from one of these rivers. So overall, this project will help us understand flood generation mechanisms and water quality processes.
Okay. Thank you, Guillaume. I think we can go to back to the main presentation. And now Katia, Benjamin, Michele, and Guillaume will present the call for projects. So Katia.
Thank you. I will outline the general track, which is data science for domain science. And so we welcome the projects which require the expertise of the SDSC in adopting data science and machine learning in all different application domains. So the goal of collaboration includes development and application of various methods from data science, which include areas as statistics, signal processing, machine learning, deep learning, and so on. And our work is focused on application of data science methods to real settings, which arise in different application domains. For example, biomedical sciences, environmental sciences, physics, and all others. And this year, due to agreement between PHRT and SDSC, there will be joint funding of 2 additional projects with the focus on personalized health and personalized medicine. And so here we welcome applications for collaboration related to clinical research questions, and that would have impact for patients. And these project proposals will be reviewed jointly with PHRT and SDSC. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Katia. Benjamin?
Yeah, yes, so as it was introduced last year, so again, so we have this additional track, which is called the LSI Large Scale Infrastructure track. There was an additional budget allocation specifically dedicated for projects that are related to these large scale facilities. And this large scale facility, I'm referring to a sensor network, or let's say a synchrotron, or a smart building like the one in EMPA. So, and the goal of this project is the same. So we want to develop data science methods that would help both in the operational and also on the application side of the data that is coming out of these large-scale facilities. I would like to mention, though, that large-scale infrastructure doesn't necessarily mean an enormous amount of data. So in some cases, it could be the case that the data is not that large. But still the project would qualify. So not to be confused, this large-scale infrastructure with large amounts of data. Yeah, so.
Okay, thank you, Benjamin. Michele?
Yes, thanks. Something that links all the projects we work on, I would say quite obviously, is actually the expertise that SDSC can bring on the table. And as Katia mentioned, we cover several aspects of data science, which ranges from statistics, signal processing, machine and deep learning, computer vision and NLP, optimization methods. And our aim is not only to help labs and PIs in selecting what is the best tool from a library of existing methods, but potentially is actually to tailoring those methods to the problem at hand. And even if needed, of course, developing new ones. In doing so, during the collaboration is of course very important that we discuss and we talk a lot, so that we can actually include what are the characteristics of the problem and the prior knowledge of a given problem into the models that we're gonna develop. And as a matter of fact, several among us, as we see the Science Center, we also not only come from a more technical background, but we also come from applied disciplines. And we do cover some subject expert matters, environmental sciences, climate sciences, for instance, biomedical images, biology, engineering, physics, so forth and so on. That simplifies the collaboration. Next slide, thanks. So the project we work on have to be planned over 2 years. And the expected mode of collaboration is very, I would say, is very what you are used to in research. So we usually lead, we are usually involved in most of the working packages of a given project, and we even lead some of those. And on a daily basis, we basically discuss our work with very frequent, which means weekly or bi-weekly meetings with the person that is so the data scientist involved in the project and the person in the lab with which we have a collaboration. So we plan our work, and usually we also have like some more, let's say, lower frequencies, all hands meetings in which we brainstorm, we plan future works, or we just simply do progress reports. Usually outcomes from those projects are the usual ones, so the usual suspects. So our aim is actually to allow PIs in their domain experts to publish influential and good papers in their domain by using data science. We also work in having like a good code and good implementation that can be reused even after the end of the project. So it's going to be important that we leave a legacy, if you want, about what we do. And then, of course, if we work on new techniques or new data science tools that are relevant also for the machine learning community at large, then other outputs would be more technical publication in specific journals of the domain. Of course, as Guillaume mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, SDSC supports open science and FAIR principles, so Renku facilitates all of that. So we want our codes to be open access, and we want our research data to be findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. Of course, this depends in whether it is possible, if there is like no privacy concern, if data can actually be distributed. But this would be also important as an important output, at least in my eyes. Thanks.
Thank you, Michael. So, Guillaume.
Sorry. Yes, I'll say a few words about eligibility and funding. So this call is open to PIs from the ETH domain who direct research and manage their own resources. But they can partner with either academic or industrial partners and partners who are from the ETH domain, from Switzerland or international. However, there is funding for partners that are from the ETH domain. So in terms of funded resources, the funding will cover funding for staff at the SDSC, more specifically the involvement of one senior data scientist, typically between 50% and 100%, staff in some of the applying partnering teams. And so the funding is of 120,000 Swiss francs if a single ETH domain team applies for the 2 years, and 240,000 Swiss francs if 2 or more ETH domain teams are partnering together. So as I mentioned, only personnel from ETH teams can be funded, with the following exception, that in PHRT co-funded projects, so projects on personalized health and personalized medicine, 20% of the funding that I'm describing now can fund what PHRT refers to as clinical services, and which is work outside of the domain, typically performed by clinician, nurses, or IT departments in hospitals that contribute to the data acquisition or labeling of the data. And one last thing, the PI cannot be funded. In terms of computational resources, the SDSC doesn't have its own computational infrastructure. We rely in our project on cloud compute and storage resources from Switch and CSCS. And so this has to be budgeted in the project unless the applicants would like to use their own computing resources for the project. And then finally, I'll summarize the timeline, sorry. So currently we are starting phase 1. So the 6th call is open. It was open a few days ago. So we're calling for submissions of pre-proposals that have to be submitted before July 4th. So those are 5 pages submission with a couple of additional documents like resumes, a data form that have to be submitted together at that date. These will be reviewed. This is a first phase of review, and on August 8th, the applicants whose pre-proposal was selected to go to phase 2 will be notified. And so then phase 2 begins. So in September, we will offer all the applicants in phase 2 to have a meeting with SDSC data scientists to discuss what they would like to do in the project and how we can collaborate together, so that we can also help them precise how they would like to organize their project proposal. The corresponding full proposals of 15 pages will have to be submitted by October 24th. So around the same time, we'll request to have suggestions of name of external reviewers who will join the reviewing process. The final decision on the full proposal is going to be at the beginning of February 2023 for project starting in the summer of 2023. With that, we would like to thank you for your attention, and we're happy to answer any questions that you would have.
Thank you, Guillaume. So if anybody has any question, just do what Tomislav did. Please unmute yourself and ask the question.
Hi, Fernando, and thank you everyone for preparing, hi, Guillaume, this nice presentation for presenting the call. I had one question regarding this contact with the SDSC data scientists. Like, can we meet with the SDSC and discuss the project ideas before pre-proposal, or we have to wait until it's actually approved in the pre-proposal to start discussing it with you guys?
So you can definitely reach out to us. Just send me send us an email to me or Guillaume, and then we will set up a meeting to discuss those ideas and help you out understand what the call is about and how to move forward in the pre-proposal. One thing that also it will be good to mention, the pre-proposal phase, usually what we are looking for is projects that have data available to be able to start on day one on the project. If you are trying to gather data and then do the project, that might be complicated, because in 24 months, getting the data and be able to progress might be complicated. So the thing that we're looking on in the first part of the proposal is that there is data, or that there will be data by the spring next year to be able to work together. That also I want to jump into Roman Fetter. He made a question that if there are projects that are scientifically independent, I would say that the goal here is to collaborate with us and do and help you in your project with your data science, AI, optimization, machine learning, statistics. So if you have a project that doesn't require our services, we believe that there are many other places where you can get funded for your work. Of course, every particular project, just reach out to me, and I'll be very happy to answer your questions and see if it makes sense for this call or it doesn't. And just two things: the slides and the video that we are recording will be available on the call page on Monday, together with the 2-minute videos of the projects that will be installed. Okay. And also, Martin, I would suggest that people unmute themselves and ask the question. Let me ask these two questions, and then we can go over this. Martin asked if the 240 need to be split 50-50. They can be split any way or not split at all. Whatever makes sense for the project. And yes, my email, we will send it the next time that we send an announcement, but my email is fernando.perez-cruz@sdsc.ethc.ch, and Guillaume Obozinski is guillaume.obozinski@epfl.ch. Okay.
But you can also write at admin@datascience.ch if you like.
Thank you, Michele, for sharing the link for the academic projects. Sebastian, you have a question?
Yeah, hi all, thanks for the presentation. My question is, kind of old project teams so that have a finished project with the SDSC, are they, I would assume that they are eligible as well without better or worse chances than other teams, right? And the second question would be, who exactly is eligible? Are senior scientists are explicitly mentioned, I saw in the call, but are all senior scientists eligible or only permanent senior scientists?
So Sebastian, we were very happy to work with you. So, so that's where his question is coming. He was very involved in one of the projects in the first call. What the approach that we decided to do with projects of people that are repeating is treat them as new projects. So there is no penalization for having worked with us in the past. There is not, you're not favored for having worked in the past, and that's the way that we're implementing this exploitation trade-off, being able to work with new people, but also keep those relations that have been going on. And there is people that have been funded twice, even somebody has been funded 3 times. So we are, whatever is the highest quality project in which we can help, we will be happy to have those projects. With respect to the funding, the only thing that we ask, it can be doesn't need to be a permanent scientist, but it has to be somebody that is already funded someplace else and that it has the funding to continue until the end of the project. So it doesn't need to be a permanent scientist. It doesn't need to be a professor. It's somebody that is already being covered at ETH, EPFL, or of course, EMPA, PSI, EAUAC, and BSL.
Hi, Fernando. I had another question regarding the budget for the PHRT type projects, because you say here that it's 20%, and that I guess would be a 20% of the total budget. So just to figure this out, I have like a scenario. So let's say that we apply with 2 ETH PIs, which would be 240 for the personnel, and then there is the SDSC personnel, which let's say it's another 130, and then there is maybe another 30K for storage and so on. So that's already 400K. Does this mean that we can then add another 100K, which would be 20% of the full budget for the clinical services, or that means that the maximum amount would be 20% of this 400K, I guess it would be 75K.
So I think that the idea of the 20K is that it have to be, I mean, the 20% have to be part of the total budget. Of course, there is, I mean, especially the issue when we're doing for the clinical services is that the funding that we get, it comes from ETH RAD, and they ask us to spend it in ETH RAD institutions. So, of course, for PHRT, and we understand that for clinical services, in order to collaborate, we need to pay for the resources of getting that data. That is not easy. So the 20% should go, I would say, for the budget that you are proposing. If you need more, of course, there is always ways in which you can work with the budget. And whenever that comes in September, when we have the one-on-one meeting to discuss the final part of the proposal, we can go over the budget and see that it fulfills the criteria of the code.
Okay, so the budget is not part of the pre-proposal.
No, the pre-proposal, it should be something easy. 5 pages, you describe the problem, you describe the data that you have, and doesn't even need to go over the machine learning algorithms. You need to focus on the domain science, on your expertise. Then if the proposal have the data and it's something that we feel that we can do, then people get invited to the full proposal. And in general, the projects that do not make it to the full proposal tend to have an issue with the data, that the data is not there. So that's why we cut those projects. And then there is people that have been invited that don't have the time to submit the full proposal at the end. So when we have that that process, the only thing that and then so most people make it to the full proposal. Okay, Guillaume, you want to say something before I ask you?
Yes, I just wanted to like add one element about these clinical services to clarify. So two elements. The first is that this has to represent at most 20% of the contribution of PHRT to the project. So those are projects that are co-funded with PHRT. So this is not 20% of the total amount of funding. It's 20% of the part that correspond to staff hired in your team. So it would not be 400 in the case that you're mentioning. And the other thing is that this has to be approved by the PHRT executive committee. So I would really say that for more information of this, I would definitely encourage you to contact the the directors of PHRT. Who will be more than happy to discuss this with you.
Okay. But again, all of that discussion, there is no budget needed right now. We can have that discussion in September with us and with Danny and Francois. Okay, Mutian?
Thank you, Fernando, for the information. You mentioned briefly, you're expecting this data available by next year before starting or at the starting of the project if it's founded. Just wondering, actually, we're planning something, gather the data this fall, but we won't get the data because we work with dairy cows and the climate change. And so the process is a little bit longer. So we're getting the data later this year, but by the time for pre-proposal, I won't have data, but rather a project planning to start in the fall. I was wondering how would that be seen to be evaluated for pre-proposal?
So we trust all of you. So if you tell me that the data is going to be available by spring, we will go and understand that the data will be available. So you're not going to be penalized by that.
Thank you.
Perfect. Benjamin, before you jump in, there is Sandra Debes made a question about potential collaborators. They can be added in the final proposal. So you can write your proposal by yourself. And then if you feel that you want to add more people to your call in the final proposal, that's totally allowed, and the more the merrier. So that will be happy to have more people involved. Benjamin?
Yes, so just one comment regarding the previous point about the pre-proposal that should be simple and focus on the domain science, but at the same time it should be in a language that is easy to understand for a non-domain expert, and in particular, it should describe well the problem in terms of data science. I just wanted to make this remark because that's an important point of evaluation at the pre-proposal stage.
Thank you, Benjamin. Just for reminding everybody, the pre-proposal stage is evaluated internally. There are no external evaluations. So you will have some of us senior data scientists reading the proposal, and being in a way that is for any general scientist will make the proposal easier to evaluate and move to the next phase. Guillaume?
Yes, just to add to what Benjamin was mentioning, I'd like to encourage everyone to click on the link that Michele posted, because you will find there a document called call documentation, which basically describes all the elements that we have described in this video. And since it is in written form, if some of the points are unclear to you, hopefully this should be clarified in the documentation. So I would like to encourage you to use it as a reference document. And other thing is, I'm not sure, Fernando, that we have answered the question of Amit Singh, who was asking whether a postdoc, already a data scientist working at ETH, collaborating with medical faculty, be eligible to apply for the fund. So, as I said, to be a PI for the project, you have to be a senior researcher at EPFL or ETH Zurich or one research institute, and you have to be able to manage your own funding. However, a postdoc can essentially be supported by a senior researcher or a professor, in the process of applying to our call. But the main applicant has to be a senior researcher or a professor or somebody who manages their own fund.
Okay, just adding to that, many of these postdoc can be copied in the proposals, and that's a way also if you are writing the proposal and you want to be credited as one of the copiers of the proposal, you can be added as one of the copiers. You're welcome, Amit. Any other questions?
I have one quick question that kind of reflects one of those in the chat. What is kind of the standard way of including industry collaborators in the proposals? Is that seen as positive, or I guess they can't really have any budget, but do we then have to explain what their role is in the project and how much personnel, how much what kind of investment they're actually bringing to the project?
So I would say that the way that I would look at either industrial collaboration or somebody from outside Switzerland or outside the domain, we have projects in which people from the University of Bern or the University in Lugano have applied, or we have a project in people that work in Copenhagen on the UK have applied. So any of these will be evaluated in the proposal. So if they make sense with the proposal, it's going to be measured in a positive way. And the reviewer, especially in the second phase, the external reviewer will see that as a positive part of the project. So I'm not encouraging anybody to add any extra people just because it looks good. It has to make sure it has to make sense in the proposal. It has to make sense in the work packages. It has to make sense in order to make the best of this project. Okay. So if there are no more questions, feel free to reach out to any of us, either through our emails or the general email that then will be directed to, oh, sorry, there is Jasha wants to have a question.
Hello, thank you for the great introduction. I have a question. I will be working at the Center for Sustainable Future Mobility, which is a collaboration of 40 professorships at ETH, and we're looking into funding from your side. And the question that we have is that essentially we want to build up a data science pipeline for our data processing, more or less. And so it's not quite a domain application, but it doesn't fall into the range of the large-scale infrastructure part. But we have these 40 groups that should use this in order to run their domain science applications. So the question is this something that we can come to you with, or should we rather go for a specific domain application?
So, I mean, I would suggest that send me an email. Let's sit down and then discuss the two things, because the way that you're explaining the first part is maybe where the Renku platform might be able to help, and then we can do something that is also more targeted toward the domain in which we can put it into this code. But I think given that your case is very specific, I would suggest send me an email. We have a meeting, the two of us, or if you want to bring somebody along, and then we decide what is the best course of action for your needs.
Thank you. That sounds very good.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so again, I will say goodbye again to everybody, unless somebody has a last minute question. Again, the video will be uploaded to our webpage on Monday. The videos for the other projects will be there too, and reach out to any of us. We are here to help. I think that's the summary that I want to transmit to all of you. Okay, so thank you. Have a good afternoon and enjoy the summertime.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.